the energy.
The guy told me I was no spring chicken anymore, and that's why my ankle was still hurting. I'm 33, not 133.
The passion.
The Red Sox handling of Xander Bogaerts is a complete organizational failure.
The opinions on all your favorite teams.
No, not this year, but it's next year where Bill Belichick ends up on the hot seat.
This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
What's up, everybody? A snowy Wednesday here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Do drive safe. There's my PSA. Do drive safe. Get where you're going, but get there safely. Get there responsibly. There's issues on the interstate going northbound. There's issues going southbound. Everybody be safe. I appreciate you all joining us. If you are listening in the car, I'm telling you not to text in today. If you're listening at home, though, blow up the text line to make up for those people that can't text in. 802-585-3026. We're on all 90 minutes today. We go up until 7 o'clock, and then it's Jazz with George Thomas. We'll all get through this snow. We'll all get through it together tonight. Again, everybody, be safe. Tom Caron of NESN will stop by with us at about 6:10 today. We'll talk about the Red Sox and their acquisition of Alberto Mondesi, the DFA that I'm still surprised about of Matt Barnes. And we'll talk about the Bruins because, yes, I watched hockey last night, people. I watched the Bruins beat the Canadiens. I watched the third period, and I watched all of it, though, and I watched it intently. So I'm in on the – now that the Patriots are done, I'm in on the hockey train, and we're going to start talking about that more as well. We'll get you ready for UVM men's basketball tonight against Binghamton, which comes up about 90 minutes from now. And there's a couple other interviews that will be available later online. I've done a couple of extra things we'll put out on the podcast channel. But again, the text line's open, 802-585-3026. Your locally owned Napa stores in Waterbury and Morrisville bringing us that.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
The opening thoughts on the Brady Farkas Show are brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and by Swanton Lumber, Vermont's most complete, locally owned home center with locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, and at Swanton Lumber. They're online at sticksandstuff.com. I heard something very thought-provoking from Richard Sherman last night. Remember Richard Sherman, the former Seahawks all-pro defensive back, Niners, also spent a little bit of time with the Bucs last season. Okay, he's got a podcast, and I did not hear the whole podcast. I just caught a clip that was on social media, but it really got my mind thinking. Here's what Sherman said last night, again, on his podcast.
I'm sorry, fans. I hate to break it to you. Every team in the National Football League is not trying to win the Super Bowl. Some of these owners are trying to make a buck, and they're making it.
Sherman, who played in the league, certainly has more experience, more clout, more know-how than I do, and went to Stanford. He says, sorry, fans, not every team in the NFL is trying to win the Super Bowl. That's an interesting conversation, and I want your thoughts on it. If you can text in, 802-585-3026. What do you think of that? Do you think Sherman's right? Do you think some owners are only out to make a buck? Or do you think that more teams are going for it than he thinks? Because here is where I stand. I think technically, if we're fully dotting I's and crossing T's, technically, I think Richard Sherman is right. Not every team every year is trying to win a Super Bowl. But I believe that NFL teams are trying to win championships at far greater pace with far more regularity than teams in the other big three sports. Does that sound fair to people? Does that sound right to people? Because it sounds right to me. Richard Sherman is technically right. Not every year is every team trying to win a title. But more teams are trying to win titles in the NFL more often than in any other of our big four American sports. Okay? I'm not naive. Ray's over in Warren, he says it's possible. It could be partially true. And I think that probably lands with exactly what I just said, right? Look, the 2020 Patriots, they weren't trying to win the Super Bowl. I'm not naive. I know that, right? You hope to win the Super Bowl, but the Patriots were not setting out for it. Bill Belichick said, we are resetting the cap, right? 2020 was a reset of the cap. Tom Brady was gone. They didn't try to keep him. They brought in Cam Newton. And even as much as I liked Cam Newton, he wasn't as good as Tom Brady. So you have a lesser quarterback. You did not try to maintain quarterback play. You did not spend as much money in free agency. And Bill Belichick, your head coach, says we were resetting our cap that year. That's not a team that was trying to win the Super Bowl. That's very evident to me. The Dolphins, I believe in 2019, who traded Minkah Fitzpatrick and started out like 0-10 or whatever, very clearly were not trying to go for it. Atlanta this year, I think. Marcus Mariota is their starting quarterback. They clearly, to me, were not really going for it. So Richard Sherman is right, technically. Your favorite team is not always going for a title. But again, NFL teams are going for titles with far more regularity and at a far greater clip than other sports. Like, let's examine this. The NFL has a rule in place. The NFL as a whole has to spend 95% of its salary cap in a 4-year period. That's a little in the weeds, but bottom line, in order to hit that number, in order to spend 95% of your salary cap as a league, every individual team also needs to spend and spend a lot. In baseball, teams can bottom out payrolls for years. The same can happen in the NHL. The same can happen in the NBA. You cannot do that in the NFL. Teams are forced to spend. So when you are forced to spend, you are undoubtedly then going to try to spend on good players that are going to help you win, right? Look, Cleveland a few years ago goes 0-16 and 1-15 under Hugh Jackson. They had the windfall of cash, and then they went out and they bought everybody, right? Like OBJ they traded for. They signed Jarvis Landry, guys on the defensive side of things. They brought in an entire offensive line. They got Jack Conklin, Alex Mack. They had a great, they traded Alex Mack, but Jack Conklin, they had a great offensive line, and boom, they got to the playoffs, okay? And they won a playoff game. You look at the Patriots in 2020. They took basically the whole offseason off. 2021, they spent like drunken sailors. Nelson Aguilar, Jalen Mills, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Trent Brown again, Matt Judon. Okay, the Patriots spent, sure, they wanted to be good, but they spent in part because they had to spend, and that fueled them wanting to be good. The Jaguars this year, they spent a bunch in free agency. We've seen the Jets spend a bunch in free agency. Teams have to spend money. They try to retain their own, or they go out and spend big in free agency. I mean, so the NFL team has to spend in a way that other teams in other leagues don't have to. So right there, I think that's where Richard Sherman's argument, I poke a hole in it and say, look, if I've got to spend, I'm spending with the intent of winning. I may not have to spend every year. I may take a year off here and there, but bottom line, I got to spend, so I'm spending to win. And then we talk about this all the time. Teams that have rookie quarterbacks, they're trying to win Super Bowls, right? We know how financially advantageous it is to have a rookie quarterback contract. When you have that 5 years, you're trying to win the Super Bowl. Every team that has a rookie quarterback is trying to figure out how to maximize it. And maximize it means winning the Super Bowl. The Patriots are trying to figure it out. The Chargers are trying to figure it out. The Jags are trying to figure it out. The Bears are trying to figure it out. The Jets are trying to figure it out. The Chargers are trying to figure it out. Cleveland, when they had Baker, was trying to figure it out. Like, all teams that have cheap quarterbacks are trying to win the Super Bowl. It's incredibly urgent that they win the Super Bowl while they have the cheap quarterback contract. Every team in the NFL. I don't think there is a whole lot of, quote, not trying to win in the league. I really don't. A team or two here and there, But bottom line, we talk about tanking and all that. Most of that comes when a team is already out of it. Teams don't go into seasons in the NFL saying, hey, we're bottoming out. Hardly ever. Right? The Indianapolis Colts were horrific this year. They traded for Matt Ryan. They went for it this year. It just didn't work. Washington didn't make the playoffs. They traded for Carson Wentz. It just didn't work. So even the bad teams in the NFL, they've taken their shots and gone for it. When we talk about tanking or sitting guys or suck for luck or tank for Tua, that's generally when your team has had massive adversity that they can't overcome. But going into a season, teams expect to and try to win. I go into the NFL, and I know that for the most part, my team's taking a real chance at this thing. Maybe by week 4, we'll know they're out of it, but they're taking a chance. I go into a baseball season, I know the A's aren't trying to win this year. I know there's a 3 or 4 year period where the A's aren't trying to win. The Pirates the same. The Reds the same. The Orioles weren't. The Mariners weren't. Texas Rangers weren't. The Colorado Rockies. Plenty of teams in Major League Baseball not trying to win. Oklahoma City in basketball is telling you. Now, they're a little better than we thought, but they're telling you, look, man, we are looking for draft picks. That's it. We don't care how we play. Embrace the process in Philly. They weren't trying to win for years. They were just looking for draft picks. That's happening as a fundamental plan in the NBA, as a fundamental plan in Major League Baseball. That is not a fundamental plan in the NFL. Teams will back off of a season, but they don't go into a season hardly ever saying, you know what, we're just not even going to try. And I spoke with Freddie Coleman of ESPN Radio about this earlier, and he agrees with me that far more teams are trying to win than Richard Sherman gives him credit for. Here we go.
There's always that look of everybody going, okay, where's the upper tier of owners when it comes to winning, when it comes to losing? And you don't want to be constantly in that lower tier when it comes to losing franchises. So there are plenty of owners that don't want to be that person. They don't want to be in that tier where people look at them and say they're never going to win. That's why you see a lot of owners and NFL teams make a lot of desperate moves when it comes to coaches, when it comes to free agents, when it comes to draft choices.
Yeah, see, I agree with Freddie too. The NFL ownership group is a very ritzy, elitist, exclusive group. You do not want to be the runt of that litter consistently, right? You don't. You do not want to be the runt of the litter consistently, right? Like, look at the Jaguars, okay? The Jaguars, I would say, are a team that has been relatively cheap. They made the AFC title game a couple of years ago. They're back in the playoffs this year. They spent big money in the free agent market the last couple of years. I mean, so yeah, it hasn't always worked, but the Jaguars, they're still spending money and they're still taking playoff runs. They were 1 win away from the Super Bowl. And when Freddie's right, like, you look at how desperate NFL teams are. Okay, teams gave Antonio Brown 2nd and 3rd chances. Why? They're desperate to win. The Cleveland Browns mortgaged their whole future and paid Deshaun Watson $230 million. Why? They are desperate to win. Teams move on from quarterbacks after 2 years. Why? They're desperate to win. Teams move on from coaches after 1 year. Why? They're desperate to win. Richard Sherman makes it sound like the NFL is too patient and too okay with not being good. I could argue the other way in a lot of cases. They're too impatient. Their desire to win quickly and have quick fixes overrides their smarts. Joseph said, I think Sherman's half right. I think half the teams out there are not trying to win. I don't believe that. Right? I don't believe that. Seahawks this year, right? They traded Russell Wilson. They kept Geno Smith. I went into the season thinking, you know what? Seahawks are tanking. The Seahawks didn't think they were tanking. They made the playoffs. Right? The Cardinals finished awful. They went into the season thinking, hey, we went to the playoffs last year. We want to get there again. The NFL is just designed for a lot of turnover, but just because your team is bad doesn't mean that your team wasn't trying. Texter also says the crop of owners looks for their money. Yeah, they want to make money. The NFL owners are selfish in making money, but they're generally selfish when it comes to things like TV deals. They want to rake us over the coals for that stuff. I think that they do want to win. It is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. UVM basketball taking on Binghamton tonight. It's a Catamounts and Bearcats matchup of two teams that are 4-2. We'll get you ready for that matchup, but I'll tell you what I talked with Coach Brennan about as we talk about the Cats. We'll do that next on DEV.
Y'all feeling lucky? Luke Combs here, and I have an exclusive opportunity for you to win $500,000 by joining me in the Living Lucky with Luke Combs lottery experience. When it rains, it pours for lucky fans and lottery players who enter to win a chance of a lifetime. Join me in Nashville for a private concert at the iconic Ryman Auditorium in 2024. One lucky winner will have the chance to walk away with $500,000 at the end of the show.
Play Vermont Lottery's Living Lucky with Luke Combs scratch ticket and enter to win today. Please play responsibly.
Hi, I'm Albert from Waterbury Service Center on Main Street. Yeah, it's cold out. It's no fun being beside the road, sitting in a vehicle that is cold as well. Bring your vehicle in and we'll give it a winter check over. We look at belts, hoses to make sure they're not ready to break. We keep track of your fluids, check your brakes, change your fuel and air filter if needed. All of these things are cheap insurance for a warm, safe ride. Come see us at Waterbury Service Center on Main Street and check us out on the web at waterburyservicecenter.com.
New England Municipal Resource Center, NEMRIC, a company that recognizes the value of Vermont and all things local, municipalities, businesses, and WDEV. WDEV also serves the Northeast Kingdom at 101.9 W270BR Island Pond.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt US Kids, and the Ad Council.
WDEV is sending a lucky winner to the Daytona 500 this February, and it could be you. Prize includes a 5-day, 4-night trip with round-trip airfare, hotel accommodations, $500 in spending money, and tickets to the Daytona 500. Sign up for your chance to win at the following locations.
The Great Outdoors, Northgate Plaza, Morrisville. Hayes Ford, Main Street in Newport. Leo Small Engines, Route 15, Morrisville. Two Sons Bakehouse, Main Street, Hyde Park. And Paris Auto, Brooklyn Street, Morrisville.
Tickets to the Daytona 500, 5-day, 4-night hotel accommodations, and $500 in cash. Sign up today. No purchase necessary. Contest rules and details available at WDEVradio.com. Sponsored in part by Milne Travel American Express. The Brady Farkas Show now has an interactive text line, so reach out now at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. UVM men's basketball tonight on the road at Binghamton. Catamounts are 10-10. Binghamton's 8-11, but both teams are 4-2 inside America East Play. So this one turns out to be a big game tonight at the Binghamton Events Center. The first time these two teams have met this season. UVM beat Binghamton by 32 in the America East playoffs last year. That was the conference semis that year. Binghamton is kind of in an interesting spot right now. So they've got a great win. They beat UMass Lowell in overtime. They got beat by Maine by 20. Maine's at last check winless in the league. Well, I say that back. They're not winless now because they beat Binghamton, but they were winless going into that matchup. UVM is no great shakes this year. They beat Maine by 20. Maine beat Binghamton by 20. Logic tells me UVM should win this game. And I'll give my official prediction at the end of the show, but I'm telling you, I got UVM winning this game, and I think they'll play fairly well today. Coming off of Sunday's victory over NJIT, I'm feeling generally more optimistic today about UVM. I did have a chance yesterday to talk with Catamount former Hoops coach Tom Brennan. We talked about a lot of different things, but one of the things we talked about is something that I have said. UVM hit 11 threes on Sunday. Now, they may not hit 11 threes again today, but finally shooting well, I asked Brennan exactly everything that opens up for you as an offense.
Well, they got to, it widens the floor so much because if they don't, if they're going to come out and contest, then everything changes. Now you can go by somebody or and it causes rotation.
Yeah. Now that's something that I said the other day, right? When I came in on Monday. UVM finally shooting well made a huge difference. And that's what I want to see more of tonight. No, they may not hit 11 threes, but they can't go 3 for 16 from 3. They can't go 4 for 19. They can't go 6 for 26. They need to shoot with some kind of consistency from the outside because to Brennan's point, it does open up everything for you. When you can hit threes, then obviously you get points. That's great. That's number one. But 2, now somebody's got to come out and guard you. And now the lane is open for you. UVM doesn't have any big guys. So they need the lane open to them because they need cutters to be able to get there. They need, backdoor cuts to be able to get through there. And you can't do that if the lane is clogged with defenders because you can't hit an outside shot. So if you can draw the defense out, then those cutters now have a space to occupy with some room to maneuver. We talk about why Dylan Penn hasn't really gotten going in Catamount Country. Well, that's his game. Part of the reason he can't get to the hoop easily is that teams are just suffocating down inside the lane because they don't trust UVM to hit any outside shots. So it does force you out and therefore force the defense out and then open up the lane for you. That's great. Then as teams start to respect your jump shot, you're going to get teams chasing you, and that's what you want. Okay? Defenders are now flying at you. Pump fake, go by. Now you've got 5-on-4 for a little bit. Defenders are fouling you more. You're getting to the line. Guys are getting on the bench. You are getting guys out of rotation, and now you're able to get to the bucket easier. That is all good stuff. So shooting well goes beyond just the obvious of wanting more points. You want to be able to open up options for your offense, and UVM has a chance to do that. I think they will shoot better today. I just feel like maybe Sunday and the confidence that comes from it is a little bit of a turning point. One guy that's not shooting well, though, is Aaron Deloney. Right? Shot well against Bryant. But in the other 5 conference games, he's 5 for 28 from 3. I asked Coach Brennan about how to get Deloney going.
Well, in his role, it's easy. Keep shooting. Keep shooting. We've seen what you can do. We know who you are. We are in a, high-pressure situation. Be good or be gone. I mean, either make it or you don't. It's not like we can sit around and think about it. So let's go. You're a shooter. You're a great shooter. And we continue to expect that you will be. And the thing is, how long do you ride?
All right. Couple of things there. One, Brendan says, just keep shooting. I agree. Aaron Deloney, that is what he does, right? That is Aaron Deloney's thing. And you've got to allow him the chance to find his strength again, right? Like some players are like, okay, I'm not shooting well. I'm just going to play great defense. I'm just going to rebound. I'm just going to do. That's not Deloney. He's not a lockdown defender. He's not very big. He's not a huge rebounder. He's not a true point guard. He is a scorer. So he's got one thing that he does great, and he needs to be allowed to try to do that one thing. Shoot. Just shoot until you hit. And that's what I do. I agree with Coach Brennan. Tell him to shoot, encourage him to shoot, support him as he shoots. And look, if he goes 2 for 6 today, he goes 2 for 6, but that's a hell of a lot better than 1 for 4 or 1 for 7, which is what he's been doing. But give him the freedom to do it. Brennan says, how long do you roll with him? He's one of your guys. He's got to play. I mean, Deloney's got to play 20 to 25 to 30 minutes a night as far as I'm concerned. And I think if he plays that much, I think he can contribute. So I would play him, and I would play him a normal amount. I don't want this to turn into a situation where he goes 0 for 1 and he gets taken out and his confidence is shot. That's what you can't have. Play him 25 minutes. Encourage him. Let him get 6 threes up again. Again, 2 for 6 is better than 1 for 7. 3 for 9 is better than 1 for 8. Let him shoot. Give him the confidence. Because right now, I don't know that he has the confidence in himself. He needs to know that you stand behind him. And if you start playing him, 12 minutes a game, well, then that confidence is only going to wane more, right? I've been there. A lot of us have been there. Right? I had a baseball coach come out to me once and say, hey, if you walk this guy, you're out. What I do, walk the next guy. Right? That doesn't work. If you go to Deloney and start slashing his minutes and saying, hey, you're going to play 17, he played 17 minutes on Sunday. 17 minutes down to 14 minutes and down to 12. And now all of a sudden, now you're hesitating. Okay, well, if I miss, I'm going to get taken out. I don't want to do that. You can't have that. This is one of your best offensive players. He needs to be treated as such and given the freedom to make plays. I absolutely believe that. The one thing I would think about if I were John Becker, really, is I would think about starting Aaron Deloney. He started at the beginning of the year. They took him out of the starting lineup to kind of be a spark plug off the bench. Right now, he's not being a spark plug off the bench. He's probably got just more time to sit on the bench and think about, okay, when I get in, I got to do this, find my spot, hit my shot, have confidence. And then you get in and it kind of snowballs negatively on you. I'd consider starting Deloney and working the other way and saying, hey, get out there, get into the flow of the game early, get a sweat going early, rather than sit, on the bench for a bunch of minutes before you come in. Get out there and let it fly. Now, I don't know who exactly you'd take out because everybody, I like Veretto, Duncan, Penn. I like all these guys. But Deloney might best be served as a starter now, at least, give him a chance to get some confidence going again. And finally, Coach Brendan said something else very, very interesting to me.
Robin Duncan means as much to this team as anybody we've ever had here means to their team.
That's fascinating to me. Robin Duncan means as much to this team as any guy we've ever had is meant to this team. Now, I don't have the institutional knowledge of the program that Coach Brennan does, but that is high praise. They've been playing basketball here for a long time, and he knows about it for a long time, and he lived it for a long time, and he is saying that Robin Duncan means more to this team than anybody else has. I can't tell Coach Brennan that he's wrong. I can just tell you that this year, Robin Duncan is the heart and soul of the team. And last year, I was down on him, right? I looked last year and said, Robin Duncan can't score, therefore, okay. And maybe on last year's team, I didn't appreciate him, right? They had scorers. They had Shungu. They had Missoula. They had Powell. They had Davis. I looked at last year and said, all the guys that could score, Duncan can't do that. He's not that special. This year, he's special. He's a point guard playing center, out of position. He's leading the team in rebounding. He plays defense. He's the emotional leader. This team would be nowhere without him. They are average right now anyways, but without him, they'd be absolutely nowhere. He reminds me of Dre Wills. Dre Wills was a player for UVM when I first got here, who didn't score a lot, who played great defense, who rebounded, who bothered the hell out of you. He was a guard. I mean, he was a small guard. He wasn't like Duncan, who was like 6'6", 6'7". But Dre Wills was kind of that scrappy guy who did all the little things and was an emotional kind of firecracker for the team. That's how Duncan is. That's how Duncan is. He is pretty special. That's high praise from Coach Brennan. All right, we're going to get to CBS News Update nationally. We'll do that. We'll come back. We'll get ready for Tom Caron of NESN, who will talk Red Sox and Bruins with us next on the Brady Farkas Show on DEV.
Our connections make powerful things happen, uniting individuals and communities.